Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf of Outspoken, and I'm back live because there's one more really important piece of breaking news, development in public life that I want to share with you. And it has to do with geoengineering. And it is the Clear Air Act. And those of you who follow my work know that I've been interested in weather modification and various geoengineering technologies. And there are many, including solar radiation management, including marine cloud brightening, cloud seeding, horrible technologies. I've tracked the source of them all. They exist. They are funded by Harvard. They are funded by Intellectual Ventures, which is one of Silicon Valley's premier investment firms for biotech, essentially, weather tech, a whole sector. There's a lot of legislation about geoengineering that basically, when I first started looking into it, I was astonished by this, awards the private sector the IP that our tax dollars develop to destroy our skies. That's a real bill. And there are like demonic leaders of this effort to geoengineer our skies. A horrible, evil man. And I'm a nice person. I don't say this lightly, but Dr. David Keith is a horrible human being who has been at the forefront since at least 2016, 2017 of the effort out of Harvard to geoengineer our skies. Horrible Dr. Gernot Wagner, who's a kind of the face of geoengineering, solar radiation management, to write op-eds about it for Bloomberg to make it nice. Horrible human being. And I had the misfortune of engaging with these people in 2017 when they were funded to release a weather balloon full of sulfur dioxide, which is smog, basically, sulfates, over Arizona. It wasn't legal to do it out of the US state of Arizona, so they were going to do it out of I kid you not, off a Native American reservation, which of course is not subject to the laws of the United States. They're their own sovereign nation. And I was literally on Twitter, as it was called at that time, with my followers in Arizona. I'll never forget this. One was an older lady named Molly, and she was looking at the sky and she was saying, our skies are turning white. It's completely unnatural. We haven't seen the sun for days. My plants are dying. My pets are not well. Please tell me, is this ScopeX, which was the name of this experiment? And I had Gernot Wagner talking to me on Twitter, making fun of me. I think Dr. David Keith also jumped on for a while to make fun of me. There was a full-time weatherman out of Florida who was hired to make fun of me on evenings and weekends and Memorial Day, federal holidays, on social media. And I was saying to Gernot Wagner, here's a human woman, an elderly lady in Arizona, asking you directly, have you geoengineered her skies? What is it? And what can she do to keep her pets and her garden safe? And he wouldn't even respond to her. He wouldn't. I've never forgotten that. Like, this cord fell. He acknowledged me because I guess I exist in his, mental map, because I went to Yale and Oxford, but he wouldn't acknowledge Molly because she was nobody to him. It was just, her pets didn't matter to him. Her plants didn't matter. Her garden, whether her pets died didn't matter to him. Whether she died didn't matter. They were just going to effing geoengineer the skies of Arizona in 2017. They got the money to do it, millions of dollars, and they were doing it. And nothing was going to stop them. I also happen to have the director of HARP, which is a government-funded weather modification base, essentially, in Alaska. It's a real thing. Look it up, HAARP. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not imaginary. There's major funding for it. It's a real facility. And he was responding to me. And he confirmed that their job over in Alaska was to perturb the ionosphere. to trouble the ionosphere. And that's what they were doing. Unintended consequences be damned. I had followers in rural areas in Australia saying the insects are dying, the frogs are dying, the birds are dying, and these fuckers, pardon my language, these effers are cloud seeding. You can see them. And I looked it up, and sure enough, Australia had ground to air cloud seeding machines that blasted chemicals right into clouds from land, basically making war on clouds. Cloud seeding sounds so nice and gentle, but it's much more like cloud warfare, where they're firing into the cloud or they're blasting the cloud from below. And he was saying, you can't hear the birds anymore. You can't see the insects. The birds are dying. There are no insects to feed them. And he was distraught because a whole ecosystem that he knew intimately in the bush, that he spent decades in, was dying, and he could see why. Another piece of the puzzle that I found is that cloud seeding, quote unquote, sprays alumina into clouds, and that other materials, and that the materials they use for cloud seeding, which, by the way, PG&E, the California electrical company utility, right, which needs the dams to flow with water for their geothermal, origination of electricity. PG&E has been cloud seeding up and down California, including in exactly those areas that were torn apart by out of control wildfires subsequently, because the materials they spray make fires burn hotter. So, and then just look with your naked eyes. Trees are dying, plants are dying. I used to hear frogs like crazy in the spring and summer in our house in upstate New York. You don't hear them anymore. You don't see them anymore. You used to hear a racket of birds. You don't hear them now. There are many things attacking our birds and our insects. But for sure, the fact that they're spraying chemicals that are toxic to humans and pets and, flora and fauna into the air in vast numbers, a very unregulated Wild West kind of industry all over the world, by the way, is having a huge effect. It's very interesting to me that there was a very big push for many decades, I'm going to say for a decade, of organizations like the UN and the Carnegie Foundation to create a global framework for geoengineering that legalized it under the guise of making it safer, whereas they weren't proposing a global ban on geoengineering. And of course, these monsters, their lawyers are so clever that basically they, would rather have a global framework, because that allows global geoengineering, than a global ban, because they want to geoengineer. Since I began looking at this issue, the British government essentially came out and said, yes, we're geoengineering. And I'll never forget being in Chester in 2018, Chester, UK, and there were all these beautiful natural cumulus clouds, the classic puffy, gorgeous, clean-edged clouds against a blue sky, the way Britain had been for decades, my whole life when I'd gone there. And then I could see the beginning of these streaks in the sky that were so familiar to me from geoengineering in the United States. And I thought, oh no, they've begun here. And now across the world, in Portugal, when we were last in Portugal, the sky was clear. We were on a boat. The sky was clear across the Mediterranean. But when you got to the population centers, Barcelona and south of Spain, and then to Porto in Portugal, Southampton in Britain, the geoengineering was intense over the population centers. Why is that? Why do they not want to waste the geoengineering materials over ocean where no humans live? I think because they want to do something to humans, honestly. And the last thing I'll mention before I get into this bill is that the geoengineering, often when you see it here, and we can only assume it's geoengineering, right? Because I never make a claim I can't back up. but skies I've never seen till about 15 years ago, and I'm 63 years old, right? It often blocks the setting sun. And that's really interesting to me. So my theory, when people say why, I just want to share a couple of theories, because this is an issue that people are reporting across the United States. I'll just focus on the United States now, though this is a global issue. One reason is money. I've talked about what a utility like PG&E or a farming big agribusiness, obviously they have a vested interest in harvesting water out of the sky, right? No matter what it does to humans long term or to the ecosystem long term. But additionally, there are other reasons. One of them is the way shorting commodities works. If you engage in weather warfare, you can short the corn crop of Mexico and then destroy the corn crop of Mexico and make a lot of money. And with no fingerprints, no one can ever be sure that it was your plane, releasing sulfites or releasing alumina. Another reason has to do with military experiments. And again, this is confirmed. I never say anything that isn't confirmed. There is something called chaff, which is the military releasing a lot of tiny bits of aluminum. And you can see this sometimes when you can see the aluminum in the sky sometimes, because the sun will look kind of blurred like a mirror almost, in a way that it never used to. And you can see kind of like hot, radiant reflections smeared across the sky from the sun, which is, didn't used to happen. It just didn't used to happen. So, and they've confirmed that alumina are in some of the materials they're spraying in the skies. Well, the reason the military does this is aluminum is it allows signals to transmit better. So it improves signal transmission. Another reason the military might want to geoengineer is, I'll never forget this. I was once along the Hudson River, and suddenly a huge cloud formation, the shape of like a giant aircraft, kind of assembled itself and soared across the sky. And I was like, what was that? Well, my husband's veteran, I don't know that it was geoengineering, but the technology exists to basically create cloud cover to conceal, if you want to conceal aircraft deployment or, spy satellite deployment or other kinds of military or quasi-military deployment in the sky. It helps to have cloud cover, right? If you want to cover a population so they don't see an incoming attack, right, when you're waging warfare, that can be useful. I'm just giving you all the reasons that all these various interests are engaging in weather management, weather, modification. And lastly, one of the programs I found came out of the Department of Energy in our own government. Why would you want that? I don't know. I don't know why the Department of Energy would want that. Maybe to fill dams so that electricity can be harvested. But lastly, there's such a huge investment in these especially solar radiation management, which is that white sky, the thin trails that expand unnaturally to cover the sky. You know what they are. They're in every state. Days of no sun. Why would you want that? I mean, people in Britain are talking about like summers with no sun, and people in the Netherlands, I've seen it, gray day after gray day after gray day. Sometimes we had that in upstate New York. Totally unnatural. Tech, when the skies are gray and you don't feel that well because there's so many toxins in what you're breathing, you go inside and you get on your phone or you watch Netflix, and that's money for tech, money for tech, money for tech. Basically, the tech industry is competing with the beautiful natural world and God's sky and God's weather and God's cloud formations, God's sunsets. They can't compete with that organically, so they block it. And then they have your attention all to themselves. So those are my theories and also my facts. Now let's take a look at the bill. There are actually a number of bills that have been introduced to end geoengineering, and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you what Bill Cam is, and then we're going to find Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill. Oops, not the video game there. I think you can see that, right? Yes, you can. All right, so here you can all go to BillCam, dailyclout.io/BillCam, and you can search by keyword, and I'm going to search clear air because that is the name of the act. But you can also search by the bill ID, you can search by the legislative body, and you can search by the representative name. So here I always show you, because I'm so proud of it, you have top trending bills, and you can see what people are really caring about day by day, as opposed to what you're told to care about. So we can do a separate feature on that, because there are some really interesting bills that people are looking at, like the Genius Act, like legal protections for transgender individuals, like the Family Vaccine Protection Act, the liability of vaccine manufacturers. People are really caring about that, those issues. But let's now go just to find the Clear Air Act, and we'll search by representative, Rep Marjorie Taylor Greene. Sorry, Clear Air Act. And it's taking a while because it's state and federal. And let's see what we get. Let's search by federal only. Let's search by representative name, Rep Marjorie Taylor Greene. And there it is. There she is. Oh, she's active. And the liability shield, here it is, the Clear Air Act. Can you all see that? HB 4403, and it comes up tagged in our system under science and environment. Well, I'm so proud of BillCam, and those of you who have supported Daily Clout, we've taken the paywall down so anyone can search BillCam for free. And that means anyone can see any state or federal bill and share it from their phone. All right, so it's sponsored by Representative Tim Burchett. Now, one feature is an AI explanation feature. And here it is, a bill summary. So what does the Clear Skies Act say? This bill aims to ban all weather modification activities within the United States. And they define weather modification. It means releasing chemicals or substances into the air to change the weather, climate, or sunlight. Some examples are cloud seeding or geoengineering. So they're being very concrete in how they define that, but they're not letting a lot of wiggle room in. Key points in simple terms: no weather tricks allowed. It will be illegal to intentionally change or control the weather by sending any chemicals or devices into the atmosphere within the US and its territories. That's amazing. Who it affects: anyone who travels or uses any business methods crossing state lines or intentionally to do weather modification will be subject to this law. So that's comprehensive. Although I guess it means that if you do it for free, but it includes intentionally to do weather modification. So that's comprehensive. Penalties: violators can be fined up to $100,000 per incident, face up to 5 years in prison or both. I like that. There are also smaller civil fines up to $10,000 per violation. I don't like that. Reporting system: a public system will be created where people can report suspected weather modification activities through phone, email, mail, or online. Let's get on that. I love how she's crowdsourcing that. Enforcement: the EPA will investigate reports and work with other government agencies to check if illegal weather modification is happening, then refer violations to the Department of Justice. I love that. So Lee Zeldin, who's in charge of the EPA, will look into reports of weather modification or alleged weather modification. Repeal of past weather modification laws: any current laws, permits, or executive orders that allowed weather modification will be canceled wow, so that's acknowledging that there are current laws allowing weather modification. And this would be in force 90 days after it is signed. So that's our very amazing AI summary of what is in this bill. Now you can vote on this bill, and I have voted to support it. If I wasn't sure, I would vote not sure, and or I would vote no, and you can see that that changed my vote, or I can vote no there, and you can vote. And what's wonderful about that is that this bill cam can go through social media. I'll show you how, carrying your votes. So if, there are now 2 votes against. We want yes on the bill. All right. So I voted yes. So there are 2 votes for it, and against there are 0 votes. So you can also see the bill quite amazingly. You can click right there, and not only can you see the bill, are you seeing everything I'm showing you? I think you are. Lots of people are paying attention. It's very cool. You can see exactly, it's like an X-ray of the bill. You can see who's sponsoring it. And this is very mind-blowing because I was a lifelong Democrat, but a lot of bills I looked at in this bill cam system, bad bills were blue. I'm not saying all the red bills were good bills, but a lot of the bad bills were blue. And I didn't want to face that, but I had to. It's in red and blue, as they say. So 3 sponsors: Tim Burchett, Representative Marjorie Greene, primary sponsor, and Tony Weed, the co-sponsor. So now you can see the bill text. You can literally see the bill text. There it is. I'm so proud of this. This is the same bill text that's, being entered into our federal system as the bill goes through the process of being, read and discussed and hopefully voted into law. So it shows a criminal penalty, fined not more than $100,000 for each violation, imprisoned not more than 5 years or both. I think she could raise that, honestly. I don't think that's much of a deterrent for a giant company or for the military. They'll make publicly available any reports collected of systems, so it's transparency. This is cool. The administrator of the EPA shall investigate. That's cool. We read about that. Then it gets referred to the Attorney General of the United States, and then it repeals existing authorities, and then it defines the term atmosphere means the gaseous envelope surrounding the Earth, including all airspace within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. So this is an important moment, and we do need some meteorologists because I don't know if atmosphere includes the ionosphere. So this could solve the problem with planes spraying horrible things and trails blocking the sky, but it might not solve the problem of HAARP perturbing the ionosphere. I think the ionosphere is higher than the atmosphere. So that's something to call attention to when you're contacting the sponsors. Weather modification, it means any injection, release, emission, or dispersal of a chemical compound or a substance, or conveyance of an apparatus into the atmosphere for the express purpose of producing an artificial change in the composition, behavior, or dynamics of the atmosphere, or affecting the temperature, weather, climate, or intensity of sunlight. And then good for her or them, such term includes geoengineering, cloud sealing, solar radiation modification management, and a release of aerosol into the atmosphere to influence temperature, precipitation, or the intensity of sunlight. They left out marine cloud brightening and NEXRAD and HAARP, but we can bring that up for an addendum. And that's it. It's a short bill. It's like 5 pages long, 4 pages long. You can read it for yourself right on Daily Clout's bill cam. So let's go back to the bill cam. I've shared it with you. You've seen who's there. You can literally contact these people right on bill cam. Now I'm going to tell 500,000 people about it. Can you see this? I just clicked onto my Facebook feed. Well, I should say 430,000 people. This is MTG's, what is it? MT Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene's whether modification bill on Daily Clout's bill cam ends the nightmare. Penalties could be stronger. Penalties could be stronger, but pass it. Okay, and now I'm posting it, and you can see it right here, and literally the bill is right there. And every one of 430,000 people can go right to the bill and share it in turn. And you can start a community for this bill to inform people about it. So that's our genius technology. I'm going to go back to BillCam. And let's see if there's anything else about that bill that we want to know. Share the screen, call up the BillCam again, and BillCam, the Clear Skies Act, share the screen. And there you can see it. So what do you want to do? You want to go to, HB 4403 on BillCam. You, for sure, you want to go ahead and share this with everyone, right? You want to go ahead and send this to all the people who called you a conspiracy theorist, all the people who don't believe you, and you can literally click right through, get it onto Facebook, get it onto Getter. You can create embed code and put it on your own website, and there's the bill right there. It's amazing, and you can share it through social media, gathering votes. Now there are 3 votes for it and none against it, just since I posted it on my Twitter, on my X. You can get notifications. You can get notified when the bill is updated, and you just subscribe and then you'll get notifications. And you can also see its progress. So right now you can see that it's been introduced in the House. Sorry, I was sharing my screen and I stopped sharing it. There we go. You can see that it's been introduced in the House, and that was on, about a week ago, and referred to the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. That's really interesting because some of the geoengineering programs are energy, from the Department of Energy. And why commerce? That's interesting too, right? Were they shorting crops, or is that just where a bill that affects? Why commerce? I'd like to know more about that. But it is a bill restricting commerce, right? You can't geoengineer, you can't make money geoengineering. So I love it. What I said on X is the penalties could be stronger, but for a first step in stopping something that a huge apparatus existed to tell you didn't exist, and you're imagining it, it's very, very exciting. So you can get notified, you can track this bill, and you can start your community to follow this bill. And here you have all the communities. This is a Facebook competitor, right? You can start your own community, and you can, log in or sign up there, and you can go ahead and raise money for your community right there on communities, and you can go ahead and raise money to create an organization to stop geoengineering in your state as well as federally. So I think this is really, really, really exciting. And this is just one of our 3 kind of legislative tools that lets you affect legislation right from your pocket or right from your computer. So again, we took down the paywall. This is free. You can bombard the sponsors with your support for this bill or your opposition. We're supposed to be neutral. I, of course, hate geoengineering, that, but you can have your say about this bill. If you think it could be stronger, you should say so. I've got to give her credit. If you're watching Marjorie Taylor Greene and the other sponsors, co-sponsors, you did a pretty good job, a pretty well-informed job tackling the main categories of geoengineering. I would add marine cloud brightening, which happens on ships at sea, so that geoengineering doesn't blow from ships onto Florida or onto Texas, right? Or onto California. This would be a huge jump forward. And I think it took leadership and guts for these sponsors to step forward and say, we're going to ban this. We're going to create a bill to ban it. I also really want to compliment Marjorie Taylor Greene and the co-sponsors whose names I will read because they like being recognized. Representative Tony Weed and Representative Tim Burchett, all Republicans, because it's written in language that everyone can understand. And of course, my pet peeve is that so many of these bills are intentionally written so that no one can understand them. So it's a great bill. So, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but those of you who hate geoengineering, see it, recognize it, know it's real, drives you crazy, makes you sad, please, go ahead and go into BillCam and send this through your social media and tweet it to the bill sponsor, tweet it to the rep, tweet it to your rep, and ask all your representatives to support the HB 4403 Clean Skies Act, or if you love geoengineering, to oppose it or modify it. This is what we've done for you. I've started this project a decade ago, more than a decade, good heavens, 12 years ago. And now it's a fully built out suite of tools that lets you run your own democracy. It has taken all my savings and, many years of my life. And we've got a team that's also working so hard at great sacrifice to themselves, materially and in other ways. So if you like what we've done, use it, right? Metrics, reach, engagement really help us. But also, please donate to Daily Clout or to me on Outspoken, on Substack, and we will go ahead and plow that money right into promoting BillCam and making sure everybody can just take out their phone and change a piece of legislation. And that'll put the power in the hands of the people again, where it should be, instead of special interests, lobbyists, or our electeds not listening to us. All right, guys, I don't see any questions, maybe because I'm not looking in the right place, but I'm going to sign off for now. And again, we took down the paywall, meaning we're not making any money because it's free, because we care about democracy. So please, if you care about this and you've got $10 or $50 or $100 or more to send over to us, just donate to Daily Clout for BillCam, or donate on Outspoken. Subscribe to Daily Clout, subscribe to Outspoken. That's how we pay our bills. But use it, right? It's a gift to you. I love you. Let's clean up our skies. But that's my wish, my vote. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Glad to share this with you.